Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Benson and I'm with the Austin Code Department in the City of Austin. Today we're presenting our City of Austin Lake Safety Educational Webinar. Among the top summertime activities in Austin is hitting the lakes. Both tourists and residents alike enjoy the Austin waters for calm and peaceful or adventure-filled activities. As the city continues to grow and more residents and visitors visit our lakes, the Austin Code Department and our city partners want to emphasize the importance of educating our community on how to keep Austin safe. We have curated this special webinar to help you learn more about how to stay safe at the lake by keeping your boat dock area safe. So in this webinar today, you're going to learn about the site plan and permitting process, addressing requirements, registration procedures, and environmental issues. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel. We will have some time for questions at the end. Also, this webinar is being recorded and we'll send you a link at the end of the session. So our speakers today are Clarissa Davis, Dan Armstrong, Daniel Cambry, and Liz Johnston. First up, Clarissa Davis from the Development Services Department is here to talk about what the first steps are when you're wanting to build a boat dock on the lake. Clarissa.
Thank you. I appreciate the introduction. It's great to be speaking with all of you today. I work at the Development Services Department, or DSD, where we review residential, multifamily, or commercial development. But since we're here to talk about lake safety, today we'll walk you through the site plan permitting process for construction of boat docks in the city of Austin. So once you have decided that you want to do a boat dock, you have your application and your site plan ready to go, the first step is to submit it to our intake staff. Intake then takes it through a process called completeness check. This is where they check to make sure your application has all the necessary documentation and information we need to review your boat dock. Once they determine that you're all set, they distribute it to all the reviewers in disciplines, that being environmental, wetland biologist, sometimes AE, meaning Austin Energy, floodplain, and site plan. We then review it, consolidate all of our comments, and provide it to the applicant. The applicant sees those, makes any revisions or additions they need, and submit it back to us. And this process goes back and forth until all comments are cleared, and then we're able to issue the permit. So I work with site plan and review all the boat docks in the city of Austin. So I'm going to go over some of the things that I look for when I review boat docks. The first thing is site information. I look at the zoning, if it's a legal lot, when it was platted, and the size of the lot. These are going to help me determine your setbacks. Setbacks regulate where you're able to build on your property. Determining when it was platted and the size can help me determine if you have a 25-foot shoreline setback or a 75-foot shoreline setback. Another setback is making sure that your boat dock is at least 10 feet away from the adjacent property line. Another form of a setback is making sure that your boat dock does not exceed a width of 20% of your shoreline. Then we look into the structure itself. Boat docks can be no more than 30 feet tall. They can't be more than 1,200 square feet where you're able to dock no more than 2 motorboats. We make sure that your dock does not extend more than 30 feet into the lake for navigational safety. And we make sure we put lights at the end of those boat docks to also ensure navigational safety. So we don't just do boat docks, we actually do piers as well. On the left-hand side, you can see a pier where someone basically uses this for like a swimming dock, fishing, things of that sort. On the right is a typical application that we usually get for a single-story boat dock. And these are some examples of our 2-story boat docks. As you can see, they can get a little bit interesting with architectural detail. One thing you will notice about these boat docks is that they're very open, and that's because we have an openness regulation, meaning all sides need to be at least 66% open so that it doesn't prohibit the view of adjacent property owners. And this is an example of a cluster dock, and this is usually for subdivisions or condos. Each unit within that subdivision or condo is allocated 600 square feet of dock space where they're able to moor one boat. This is what it usually looks like, and they're usually clustered together. And that's pretty much it when it comes to regulating boat docks from the site plan perspective. And now we'll turn it over to Austin Code Department's licensing and registration team.
Thank you, Clarissa. My name is Dan Armstrong, and today we're going to be overviewing the City of Austin's boat dock registration program. We'll begin by showing you a short video that introduces the program.
Hi, we're the Austin Code Department, and we're here to talk to you about how you can help improve the safety on your lake by addressing and registering your boat dock. In 2014, a city ordinance was passed to require the proper addressing of your boat dock. By registering your boat dock and posting a visible address on your dock, you will be able to help safety personnel respond to emergency calls located on the lake. Let's get started with learning how to properly address your boat dock. When creating the signage for your boat dock's address, please list your primary street address and make sure the letters and numbers are at least 2 inches tall. The signage should be constructed with materials that resist water damage and deterioration by ultraviolet light. Once the address is constructed, please post the address to the front of your boat dock so that it's clearly visible, contrasts with the background, and is displayed 4 to 6 feet from the water's surface, facing the center line of the lake or the slough. After you have properly addressed your boat dock, you must then register your boat dock by following a simple 3-step process. Step 1. Download and complete the registration form, which can be found on www.austintexas.gov/boatdocks. Step 2. Attach recent photos of your boat dock with its address listed. Step 3. Submit the completed registration form and photos via mail, a walk-in, or via email to acdlicensing@austintexas.gov. For more information, please visit www.austintexas.gov/boatdocks. Remember, together we can help make the community better.
Okay, and to emphasize some of the points we just seen on the video, the signage referred to as the registration or identification tag should be located on the lakeward side of the dock and include the street address of the primary property which is associated with the boat dock. The letters and numbers should be a minimum of 2 inches in height and must be constructed with materials that resist damage by water and ultraviolet light. Ideally, the signage should be 4 to 6 feet above pool level. And now let's talk about why it's important to address your boat dock. It's all about public safety. I think we can all agree that there are countless reasons to love this city. And one of those reasons is being able to spend a day on the lake. Unfortunately, from time to time, emergencies do occur on the water. By addressing your boat dock, you potentially aid people who may be in need of help one day. Because if somebody finds themselves in an emergency, all they'll have to do is look to the nearest dock for an accurate location. Otherwise, somebody, especially if they're unfamiliar with the lake, would have to approximate their location by landmarks or some other manner. You'll also be helping police, fire, and EMS by providing a precise location to respond to. And in the end, it's all about public safety. Now I'm going to hand it over to our program specialist, Daniel Cambry. He's going to walk you through how to register your boat dock with the city.
So registering your boat dock is very easy. You just simply go to austintexas.gov/boatdocks. You're going to download, fill out the registration form. Once you do that, you'll place a sign with your street address facing lakeward, take a photo, and then submit your forms with the photo. There's 3 ways to do that. We have mail, which is going to be to the City of Austin Code Department, Attention Licensing and Registration, P.O. Box 1088. Austin, Texas 78767. You can also email them to acdlicensing@austintexas.gov. And third, you can walk in at the new location will be 5202 Ben White Boulevard, Suite 550. That's going to be effective June 3rd. Once those documents have been received, an operating license account will be created and a confirmation letter will be mailed to the citizen from the City of Austin.
All right, thanks, Daniel. We're going to go ahead and turn it over to Liz Johnston.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. For those of you who are not familiar with Austin Watershed, our department is concerned with the 3 missions of erosion, water quality, and flood. And when thinking about lake safety, it's important to remember that both humans and environment play a role. So I'm here to talk about the environmental issues related to lake safety concerns. If you are a lakefront homeowner, I hope you consider what you can do to help improve the environment by allowing a more natural shoreline to thrive at the very important zone called the riparian zone. The riparian zone is that place where water and land meet. This slide shows the benefits of preserving as much of a riparian zone as possible, because as closer you get to the water, the added environmental benefits there are, including stabilizing the bank, improving water quality, and improving habitat. Not only is it important for the environment, but it also helps homeowners to preserve their property by reducing erosion and improving water quality. So these slides show areas where erosion has started to eat away property and become lake. But where you see natural thriving vegetation, the shoreline is held safe. So even though it may be battered by waves and boating can cause a lot of erosion, where you have trees, where you have sedges, where you have grasses, the roots of those plants help stabilize the soil and help keep the shoreline where it is. On one side is the homeowner that had lawn, and the waves are starting to take that lawn away, whereas their neighbor is left theirs more natural and their shoreline is staying. On the photo on the right shows parkland Emma Long, where those beautiful cypresses have been planted. The shoreline is stabilized, but everywhere in between those trees, the shoreline is starting to eat away. Now, if you do have property on the lake and you decide that you need to stabilize your shoreline due to erosion because of large waves, we do have certain requirements. And this is an illustration of a project that Watershed Protection put in at Emma Long Park in between the two boat ramps. We replaced an old failing bulkhead that was not code compliant with a code compliant bulkhead. And so what we did was we terraced back the land and allowed for a more natural shoreline. New bulkheads need to have certain elements that we will look for, primarily wave abatement, meaning that in the water, there cannot be a vertical face. We require a 45-degree face under the water, and what that does is help absorb the wave energy. So if the wave hits a vertical face, then that will bounce back into the water. It'll create choppier water, which can be a safety issue. It resuspends sediment and it causes problems. If it's a 45-degree angle and it's allowed to take the wave energy and dissipate it before it goes back into the water. The other requirements are certain amount of planting of vegetation and natural material. This particular project went above and beyond what code requires as far as wetland vegetation, because we were also trying to make it more of a showcase of what we would like to see, not necessarily what is required, but also to help take pollutants that come off of the parking lot before they enter the lake. If you prefer to have a more manicured look, if you're a homeowner, that is also allowed. Assuming you also have the elements that we're looking for, meaning natural material, non-vertical slope, and certain plantings. We also require protection from overtopping of waves, so it needs to be hardened up to a certain point so that waves don't go over the bulkhead and scour out behind. That's to protect your investment as well. Moving on from riparian edge, zebra mussels is also something that I think everybody probably has heard about by now. I just wanted to reiterate, if you have a dock and a boat on Lake Austin and you want to move your boat to another water body, your boat is infested with zebra mussels. And you need to be very, very careful how you clean, drain, and dry your boat before moving it somewhere else. I recommend, if you're going to be taking it to another lake that has not been infested, like Lake Bastrop, take it to a car wash it down with hot water, and let it dry for a week to 10 days before taking it to another lake. And I just wanted to kind of give some education about what zebra mussels are like. They're very, very small, and I know everybody wants to ask, can you eat them? I'm gonna say, I wouldn't recommend it. They're so small that it would take so long, and they also are filter feeders. So what they do is they take sediment from the water. So they're probably not the healthiest thing to eat, even if they weren't so small. They're very small as adults, but their larvae are even smaller. You can't see them. without a microscope. They're free floating, the larvae are free floating in the water. And so if anything that comes in contact with the water is likely contaminated with these larvae, which are called veligers. And what zebra mussels do is they take, as I said, filter feeders, they remove sediment from the water, deposit it on the bottom. The water clarity increases, which means sunlight can penetrate deeper, which has a very profound effect on the environment. Plants can grow in deeper water, for example, and just the food web is totally altered. In addition to that, they clog pipes. So if you're a homeowner that has a pipe from and permit from LCRA to draw water for either drinking or irrigation, you may need to consider manual removal of your pipes on a very frequent basis during the summer months, especially. If you have a boat, make sure that it's raised out of the water. The photo isn't great, but that shows a propeller that's encrusted with zebra mussels, so that boat is definitely infested. And also, all the rocks are going to be covered with them. Be careful where you grab because they're sharp and they can cut your hands. And I also just want to raise awareness, especially, if you're on Lake Austin, or also if you're on Lady Bird Lake, if you have a swimsuit, water shoes, any kind of equipment like that, make sure that it's all dried before you go into other water bodies. And that's not just your boat. We're concerned that Barton Springs and other water holes, creeks in our area could also be infested with zebra mussels. And we really don't want that to happen. So just be very, very careful. Dry everything that you have, or you have a separate pair of water shoes or swimsuit before you go to Barton Spring, because as you know, it's a home to an endangered species, and it's would be a tragedy if it were infested. So that's all I have. Thank you for signing up.
All right. Well, thank you, Liz. I'm now going to hand it over to Candace Cooper from the Austin Code Department's Education and Outreach team to walk us through some commonly asked questions on topics that we've discussed today. Candace?
Thank you, Benson. Happy Wednesday, everyone. This is Candace Cooper here. We've reached our portion now for questions and answers. So at this time, those of you who are still with us, this is the opportunity where you can now submit any question that you may have from any of our speakers. So whether you want to talk to maybe Clarissa about the development services process, or any of our code inspector here, we welcome you to submit your questions at this time, and we will respond to questions as quickly as we can. But before we get to some submitted questions, I know that there are some frequently asked questions that I know our Austin Code Department receives. And one of those questions is, what actually is an identification tag? When you're talking about the identification tag, can you tell us, Daniel, a little bit about what that is?
Sure, the identification tag would be the address signage that you would put on the boat dock towards the lake. That's just simply the 2-inch letters to display your street address.
Okay, and does the city actually issue the sign?
No, that's actually something that the citizen will have to purchase themselves.
Okay, and where would I get a sign? If I have a boat dock and I want to be in compliance, and where would I go? How would I start that process?
Probably the easiest thing to do would be you can either go to your local hardware store and have a sign made, or make yourself, or you can actually do any of the signage companies here in Austin. There's quite a few of them if you just Google them.
Okay, and it looks like we're starting to get some questions in. And again, I would encourage all of you to please submit questions. This is your opportunity now to ask. And so it does look like we have a question related to zebra mussels here. Can you speak to the use of copper to deter zebra mussels from attaching?
Hi, this is Liz from Watershed Protection. Copper can be an effective treatment for zebra mussels. However, you have to be very careful because it is also very, very hazardous to other forms of aquatic life. And so it's illegal to put harmful chemicals into our drinking water supply. I would be very careful with that. We recommend manual removal of the zebra mussels on pipes at this time.
Okay. Thank you so much for that question related to zebra mussels. Clarissa, let's talk about the development services process. Or what would you say would be maybe one of the most frequently asked questions that you receive in your office related to this process?
I would say for first time boat dock applicants, they ask us what they have to provide. And more significantly, do they have to have a registered engineer do so? We usually require and definitely request that we have an engineer do the site plan. We're able to communicate a little bit better in terms of what we're wanting to see on the site plan. We find that the process just goes a little quicker because they're a little bit more used to our site plan process. So that's definitely something that we want to see when we have our applications in. Boat dock applications are a lot less intense than our standard commercial application, so there's not a lot you have to submit. But yeah, typically it's, can I myself submit an application, and we usually try to get them to hire an engineer to help them through the process.
Okay, thank you for that. Looks like we have our next question in, and the question is, when will Lake Austin again be lowered by homeowner dock repair?
This is Liz again with Watershed Protection. So Lake Austin and historically had been lowered on a almost every other year basis for many, many years, with the primary goal to help control aquatic invasive plants such as Eurasian milfoil. If you are somebody who owns a dock on the or land on the lake, or also goes fishing, you probably know that that issue has been taken care of at this time, at least, by the introduction of the grass carp. So we don't, as Watershed does not necessarily have a strong reason to lower the lake for that particular reason. I know that it is very popular for lakefront homeowners who like to use that time to do repairs more easily. We don't currently have a time that we are a year that we are likely to draw the lake down at this time. If we do, we would have to be very careful to do that in coordination with our colleagues in Austin Water, because of the zebra mussel issue. If the zebra mussels are infesting their pipes and they all die at the same time due to a lake drawdown, that could also be a pretty big problem for them. So it's an issue that is not resolved at this time. So.
Okay, thank you for that. We did get another question in. The question is from Victoria, and it is, if I would like to properly address my boat dock, what is the best way to get in touch with everyone? So it's mainly wanting to know more contact information.
So the best way to get in touch is just to call the Austin Code Department and ask for the licensing and registration department. You can ask for myself. I will actually be processing all the registration forms, entering those to create everybody's account. And then once that's created, I'll be issuing letters to notify you that the City of Austin has officially registered you. And the easiest way is just to call the main line and ask for myself, Daniel Campry.
Okay, thank you, Daniel, for that. Still have a little time here. Okay, and with that being said, if there aren't any more questions, then, wait 1 second. Looks like we just got one in. Question is, it's coming in, it says, we have an old bulkhead that will need to be repaired with no drawdown of Lake Austin plan. How, is what I'm saying. How do I plan to repair?
We have bulkhead site plans that come in at a fairly frequent basis, and they are often installed every year without drawdowns. The reason why it's possible is the contractors out there know that they need to put up sediment curtains to help contain any sediment that gets into the water, and so it is possible to repair, to remove, to replace your bulkhead, or to add a brand new one with the water still at the level that it usually is. And so, you know, you'll have to have a contractor install it, but they're used to it by now. They've done plenty of them by now.
Okay. Received another question in. The lake is 3 feet deep in my buckhead is what.
Yeah, that is a fairly typical elevation. 3 feet is it can be done without a lake drawdown.
Okay. Next question is, do we need a permit to tag our boat? Is a permit required in order to put the identification tag on the boat? On the boat dock, I'm sorry.
I think we're going to need some clarification. You're talking about a permit from DSD. The answer is no. Addressing your boat dock is part of the registration process. And I think we've already provided the email address and contact information for Austin Code. You can also see all of the requirements online. So review what we've already discussed. But as far as actual permitting from another department to place the address on your dock, the answer is no.
One other question regarding boat dock. Is there a fee at all to register?
Not as of yet. No, there's not.
Okay. Well, it looks like we have reached the conclusion of the question and answer phase of this webinar. If you have additional questions, please feel free to contact the speaker. You can, of course, go on our website for more information. But at this time, I want to turn it over to Benson to close it out.
All right, great. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you all for being here. For more information, visit austintexas.gov/boatdocks and our partner websites. We'll be sending you a follow-up email after today's webinar to share the webinar recording, a few helpful links, and we'll also be asking for your feedback. Thanks again for joining us today, and we'll see you all next time.